Hey, in this lecture, I'll show you how easy it is to work with layer masks. These are a pillar of non-destructive editing, and I think you'll like them very much. Here's how it works. Say I want to remove this background from this image. You have it attached, by the way. Please work along. A bad choice would be to grab the eraser tool and start deleting these pixels. Those changes are permanent, and it's not going to allow you to do further edits. At one point, you might want them back. And this applies to just about any situation. Whenever possible, leave yourself options. This is where layer masks come into play. To create one, press on this third icon from the bottom of your Layers panel. Now, this white square has appeared next to my layer's thumbnail, and through it, I can recognize I have a layer mask associated with it. Here's the deal. I'll switch to my brush tool and I'll start painting with black. See how this background goes away? The great thing about it is I can switch to white and now I can bring it back, and I can toggle between the two and make all sorts of edits. After I've moved forward and I've done some other things, say add a fabulous moustache to this dog, I can change my mind and disable this layer mask. That's non-destructive editing at its best. So that's layer masks in a nutshell. Now let's take it from the top, but more in depth. First, it's essential you make the distinction between selecting the layer and selecting the layer mask. As you can see, there's a highlight effect that shows you what you're currently working on. Another giveaway is your foreground and background colors. Let me change to the raster layer and I'll choose a bright red and a strong blue. You can clearly see them here, right? Now I'll switch to the layer mask, but pay attention to this area. It immediately reverted to black and white, and that's because layer masks only work within these two spaces. Black hides pixels while white reveals them. So black removes, white adds them back in. If you're working with certain colors and you see them missing from your toolbox, that most likely means you've selected your layer mask. The great thing about it is that you retain all the great features from your brush tool. You can adjust the size on the fly with your square bracket keys. You can change the hardness to ensure softer transitions and so on. To easily customize your brush without accessing these panels, you can right-click anywhere on the canvas and you'll get a bunch of options. Please note that as you hide pixels, the initial white rectangle now slowly becomes black. And that's Photoshop's way of informing you that you've just hidden some pixels. If you want to temporarily disable this mask, you can right-click it, and here you'll have this option, Disable Layer Mask. You can also delete it at any point from the same list, but here I'll keep moving forward. Another great point about masks is that you can control-click their thumbnail and you'll immediately get a selection. This is based on the area you haven't painted over. But say you want the complete opposite. You want this other part selected. Well, switch to any selection tool, say the marquee, right-click and choose Inverse Selection. Now, you're free to work on this region. One thing you should avoid is the following option when you right-click it, Apply Layer Mask. Once you do that, you basically fully commit to these changes and you've just lost all flexibility. This may come in handy from time to time, but in general, I advise you to keep your options open. Another fantastic feature is this. You create a selection with any tool and you hit this Layer Mask button. Now you're free to work on this isolated part of the photo. This will prove useful in many activities and exercises down the road. Plus, we can use Ctrl-I to invert this mask. So now we can adjust everything except that selected part. One last thing before we go. In our very first activity, we made a picture black and white, and then we brought back the redness in the girl's lips. That was done through a layer mask. By default, when you create any adjustment layer, it automatically comes with a layer mask. Let me revert with F12. Now I'll add a vibrance adjustment layer. I'll crank it up dramatically and you can see it's now affecting the entire canvas. But notice our layer mask. Through it, I can pinpoint this adjustment layer to work on only a certain area. Say I don't want to enhance the dog. That means I'll paint over him with black. Notice the tongue and his eyes. Immediately, they revert to their original state. If I want the opposite effect, I'll use X to flip my colors and I'll paint with white over this area. Now I'll wash away everything else by painting with a generous black brush. As I brush away, you can see the results. You get all these features while still maintaining your original pixels intact. These are layer masks and they're spectacular. Let's continue in a new lecture.